This episode of the Cult Popture podcast was brought to you by our Patreon. If you want to tell us which films we should watch, get up to 2 extra exclusive podcasts a month, give us something to talk about in the post-credit scenes at the end of each episode, or even contribute to the discussion in the episode itself, then please consider joining the cult and donating at www.patreon.com/cultpopture. Richard,
yeah, you look like you've got something to say about.
There's this movie that's in cinemas at the moment called Where the Crawdads Sing, and it's one of these movies that like gently passes into cinemas and then leaves without anyone you know seeing it, right? Like these kind of like slow indie films that don't really get a lot of buzz, but they're based off a best-selling novel, and so we feel obliged to be like, hey, this is good stuff, but then no one sees it. And I reckon in New Zealand in particular, it is doomed because crawdad is not a term in New Zealand. What many call a crawdad, we would call a crayfish, which isn't exactly the same thing, but it's like the native New Zealand equivalent of a crawdad, right? So you've got these distributors who are like, we got to sell Where the Crawdads Sing to a nation that's never heard the term crawdad. Well, what do they call it? Oh, they call it crayfish. But if you call it Where the Crayfish Sing, that's also a bad title because then you're going to be expecting some kind of like Kiwiana fishing story, perhaps about ironically about a dad, not a crawdad, but a dad and his son learning to fish or something. And this is why it's hard to sell movies in New Zealand.
Yeah. Thank you for that. You teased that you before recording. You were like, "Dude, I've got a piece about Where the Crawdads Sing. I'd love to open up with it," and I'm glad you did. Would you believe I actually know several people that are quite excited for that movie, and people that asked me that if I through my film reviewing got an early screening of it, that a few people asked me that they would love to come along because apparently the book's very good, but apparently the movie is
apparently
very bad.
The authter might have murdered someone in the same way as the who are the people asking you to take them to it?
Tess, Louise.
Yeah, it's a ladies movie.
One
book,
of them is a man.
Well. I'll check that as my unconscious bias checked for the day. It's always good to get some unconscious biases checked, which is what we like to do here. And what better an unconscious bias than the belief that you are better than God and should bring dinosaurs back from the dead, from extinction, and furthermore bring a franchise about dinosaurs that was dead back from extinction as well.
Yeah. Has that ever happened?
It's happened once, Richard, and you're here to listen to it now on Film Franchise Fortnights on the Cult Popture podcast.
The Land After Time series.
That's how did we not come up with that? The Land Before Sunrise, the Before trilogy, but that's a good joke. The Before trilogy, isn't that about dinosaurs?
Yeah, nice.
And then we'd laugh and be like, "That's actually 14." A 14 trilogy, whatever that's called.
Yeah, and we'd insist that people know that we've seen all of them. Anyway, we are here to talk about Jurassic World, the trilogy, the sequel trilogy. Sequel trilogies are all the rage at the moment, aren't they? You've got Star Wars, you've got Jurassic World, and the list goes on.
Harry Potter, we joked last week we did Harry Potter. That's not getting another movie.
Yeah.
So for those that listen to our Jurassic Park episode last week and need a little refresher, this is, of course, Film Franchise Fortnight's Redux. Technically, this is still a Redux episode. I'll get to why it's a little fuzzy in a second. But basically,
fuzzy
5 years ago, we covered the Jurassic Park series, and you guys, we like to do these reduxes where we redo a franchise we've done before, maybe because we're better podcasters now, and we put it up to a vote, and you guys this year voted for Jurassic Park, and we thought we should split it up into 2 parts because now this is why it's fuzzy.
Yeah,
there are two more films in that franchise.
Yeah, so this is really the Isla Sauna to last week's Isla Nublar.
Very much so. And it has made like a definitive split in the franchise.
Oh, absolutely.
Now it is a sequel trilogy, and it is a worthy of talking about in its own 2-hour-ish episode. So.
Oh, Jesus, okay. Ooh.
Well, that's how long these big...
slow things down, then.
Big budget podcast. Fine, let's do it in an hour, dude. We never do.
Oh, my God.
We never get it done in an hour.
Let's do it. Let's try and make it the same length as Jurassic Park 3.
Yeah.
And this doesn't need to be the same length as Jurassic World Dominion, which is the longest film in the franchise. And boy, does it feel like it. So, the three films we're here to talk about today are Jurassic World, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, and Jurassic World Dominion. And I put the emphasis in a weird place there, and that was intentional, and we'll get to that.
Okay.
So, Jurassic World was the first one up.
You did that like you were worried I wasn't going to call you up on it, so you wouldn't be able to finish your little bit. But I would have. I would have been like, oh, that's an interesting emphasis that you put on that.
No, I don't trust you.
That's fair.
So, Jurassic World came out in 2015. Had a long road to get there, of course.
Oh God, yeah, that's right. This was like maybe like the longest rumored movie of my lifetime.
Yeah,
it feels like.
I think I may have spoken about it before, but I remember getting on a plane in probably 2001, 2002. I got this it was like a Looney Tunes adventure pack, and it had a list of upcoming films. And it was all like sequels. And so I remember specifically Jurassic Park 4 and Space Jam 2 being on there. And this is 2002. They're like, yeah, these movies are coming. And I think Shrek 2 was on there as well. But it's like, I so wish I still had that, or could find it and see if all of these movies actually ended up existing.
Yeah, totally. I remember what must have been a fan-made poster of a dinosaur footprint in the ground that was an IV, as in the Roman numerals for 4, and people being like, it is coming.
Wow.
And this was in 2003. People were like, hold on to your butts, which is a line from Jurassic Park, because Jurassic Park 4 is coming, and it's going to have human dinosaur hybrids.
Yeah, well, you're getting ahead of yourself there.
Sorry,
Alex.
I beg your pardon.
So, the film was announced in 2001 as Jurassic Park 4 IV. Various screenwriters were attached at various different stages. It was announced to release in 2005. At that point, Spielberg was still not satisfied with any of the drafts. In 2006, Joe Johnston was hired to direct again for a 2008 release. By 2010, they just hadn't started filming. Johnston and Spielberg intended to work on the film following the completion of whatever Spielberg was working on and First Avenger. And then another writer was hired in 2011, and then 2 story treatments were rejected. But yeah, they just couldn't find an idea. The one that there is concept art available online of is dinosaur-human hybrid mercenaries, which is we never end up seeing those in the franchise, thankfully.
Thank God, though, right? That's an idea that you see it, and you think back to the lowly, grounded days of the first Jurassic Park, and you're like, we've gone too far.
Yeah.
To quote Paramore,
how did we get here?
There's so many quotes from Jurassic Park you could have said, but you picked an outside source. I admire it.
Yeah.
It's left of field thinking.
Yeah, so in 2012, Rick Jaffa and Amanda Silver were hired to write a 4th Jurassic Park, which would incorporate Spielberg's ideas. Colin Trevorrow was hired as director in 2013, and then he completely rewrote the script with his writing partner. Spielberg approved that script in 2013 and changed the name to Jurassic World, and then it was filmed and eventually came out.
Oh.
Yeah. So, what is Jurassic World about?
So, in a timeline which doesn't not infer that this part 2 and 3 didn't happen.
It was originally so one of the scripts I read as well was going to ignore the events of 3 for some reason, and there was various things, and obviously Hammond, Malcolm, Grant and Sattler were all rumored to be appearing at some point. Richard Attenborough had a fall at his home in 2008 and retired from acting, and he was attached to Jurassic Park 4, was in talks at the time, and then he passed away in 2014. So
interesting. I think that the movie we got ignores Jurassic Park 3 if you want it to, because the events are so self-contained. But yeah, it's however many years later now, and boy has Jurassic Industries, InGen, boy have they bounced back, Richard, because Jurassic Park, now called Jurassic World, is now an open functioning theme park, and we join some of the worst characters put to blockbuster screen in the last 10 years. And I'm not talking about any specifically, just across the board. This is a pitiful cast.
Yeah.
We join a couple of brothers who nothing happens emotionally to them, and they go to Jurassic Park to see their aunt Claire, who is the big swinging dick of Jurassic World.
Yeah, she's the park. She runs the park.
Yeah. But she's too busy to look after them, and she's talking with Owen Grady, played by the once very popular Chris Pratt, who I was quite excited to see in this movie. I thought he fit the action hero bill quite well. And he's like the raptor wrangler. He has a special relationship with the velociraptors where they listen to and respect him. And he is called in to give some thoughts on the I-Rex, or the Indominus Rex, which is their genetically engineered dinosaur, and they make it too strong. It busts out. Chaos unleashes. A lot of people die.
A lot of people die.
Whether or not they deserve it or not. You find out that the kids' parents are getting divorced.
Oh, wow. That must be a big deal.
That must come back. And you also find out that the older brother, who's established as having a girlfriend at the start of the movie, is flirting with other girls.
Well, he stares at other girls.
Okay, but they smile at him.
No, okay, that's how I flirt. So.
Okay, some would call that flirting. And then, it's like, then that resolves, doesn't it? Just kidding. Neither of those plot threads are mentioned again, and one of the weirdest things I've ever seen in a movie. Like, in terms of, like, screenwriting coherency, one of the weirdest things I've ever seen in a movie. But yeah, they all bandy together, and they set the T-Rex loose, and it kills the I-Rex.
Well, the mosasaur technically kills the I-Rex.
That's true, yeah. And yeah, that's the movie.
Yeah, what do you think of Jurassic World 2015?
When I first saw this movie, I said to the people I went with, I said, that was way better than I expected it would be. And they looked at me and they said, that was way worse than I expected it to be.
Wow.
So that's kind of a good summation of my experience with this movie. This is the third time I've seen it. I only rewatched it once for the original podcast.
Yeah.
Okay, what do you not want me to speak, Richard? so fucking condescending.
Is it?
Yeah, it is. I don't know what I think of this movie. I think there's some interesting ideas in it. I think ultimately, I struggle figuring out whether this is the second or third best Jurassic Park movie, because I think, contrary to what you said last week, I think that The Lost World still has this kind of like Spielbergian wonder to it. That this one, the biggest problem with the Jurassic World trilogy and the first one as well in particular, is they're really glossy.
Well, it's got that Trevorrow sort of sense of wonder.
They're really glossy, and it's not as fun seeing like pristine CGI raptors as it is seeing like dirty raptors in the dark and in the rain.
After dark,
that's scary. That's scarier. And so I think these movies almost look too clean for their own good. Yeah. What do you think of this movie?
Well, I think so. I saw this movie in 2015 as well, and I thought that was good. That was really good. And I think it's interesting. Like, this is one of the highest grossing films ever made. And it's kind of weird to remember that, because it feels like
it's unsuspecting, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, who would have thought that a Jurassic Park movie, your distant sequel, could be the third highest grossing film of all time at the time of release. It's still the seventh highest, with a made 1.6 billion. It was just bumped down to seventh by Spider-Man No Way Home. But yeah, I mean, this sets so many box office records. And it's like, we kind of forget like what a phenomenon this film was. It's one of only 3 films to surpass $1 million in 4DX admissions worldwide. Can you guess what the other 2 are?
4DX.
Yeah, you know, the 4D cinema things.
Oh, of course. Let's go Spy Kids and Shark Girl and Lava Boy.
No, it's and isn't it Shark Boy and Lava Girl?
Yeah, it is.
So the only other 2 films to have made $1 million are Furious 7 and Minions.
Cool. What a motley crew of the top 3 are.
Although I wonder if that statistic then is just 2015 films, because those all happen to be from 2015.
It was a good year for 4DX.
Yeah.
That's what they always say about 2015.
Yeah. So what did I think of the film? It's like, I think this film is probably unfairly hated these days. Like, people act like this is really bad, but then at the same time, like, a lot of people also really like this film. So it's hard, and I feel like it's hard to really gauge like the general public opinion on this, because we live inside echo chambers. What would you guess it has on Rotten Tomatoes? Because that gives us kind of an idea.
I'm gonna guess like maybe low 70s.
Yeah, 71. So, and that's like, 71's a pretty reasonable score for a film. Like,
it's about as low as a movie can be, and I'd still be willing to be like, I liked that.
Decent, yeah. But a lot of Jurassic World I really like, and it's not perfect. Some of it is so stupid, like some of the things you mentioned already. But yeah, it's a really watchable, fun blockbuster, and I think if Jurassic Park wasn't one of the greatest films ever made, people would probably look a lot more kindly on this. That this is pretty serviceable as far as blockbusters go, which isn't that big a praise, really. But yeah, it's like when you're comparing it to literally one of the greatest films ever made, it's like, it's no Jurassic Park. I said this about, I think, the original Jurassic Park as well, but this has happened to me. I've been staying in a hotel and I've been flicking through channels and Jurassic World is on TV. And I go, oh yeah, and I'll watch a little bit of it and then end up watching the whole film. It's that kind of movie. It's a very easy watch. It's a fun watch. And yeah, I think that people maybe hate on it a little too unfairly. Once we get to the Jurassic World sequels, they might be changing my stripes a little bit. But I will say about Jurassic World, and this was my review of the film as well on Letterboxd, is that like the whole time I'm watching it, I'm bouncing between fuck, there's some amazing stuff in this film, and fuck, there's some stupid stuff in this film. But I will say about Jurassic World, I think this is one of the best continue the franchises we've ever seen in Hollywood. Like, in terms of like,
unpack that for me.
No. So, but like the idea of jump forward almost 15 years and they've cleaned up the park and it's a fully functioning theme park to the point where people are now bored of it. And and during the production, Colin Trevorrow was saying that they had this idea of a kid texting his girlfriend with his back to the glass with a T-Rex is. And that, like, this is sort of the image that the film was birthed out of. And I mean, even the idea of making a new dinosaur to be like, yeah, we need a new attraction is a good idea. And it flirts with some good ideas as well. Like that they say something about like, oh, right, it's confirmed T-Mobile presents Indominus Rex. And a lot of people shit on this film for its product placement. But I think it should have done like the Josie and the Pussycats thing and just done like full wall-to-wall product placement. Like every single shot in this film should have a brand logo on it, because that's what the film is about. It's about, brands taking over, and they should have just leaned into that so much more. Instead, it feels like a commercial, but it's like it should really feel like a commercial.
I feel so blind to this because for a long time at least, the number one criticism of this film was how much product placement was in it. Like, people would go on and on about it, and I would think back to it and I'd be like, right, yeah, because there's like Sony presents the Triceratops madness.
Yeah. The main one that people point to is the car. And that's like Claire's car. It's very, and it's notable that it's kept clean the entire movie.
Right, okay.
And it's like, and you're always making sure you're seeing the hood logo.
Right. That's interesting because watching it this time, it wasn't until the end credits that I was like, oh yeah, everyone says this movie's real bad with product placement. So I don't know if that means I'm extra susceptible to product placement or I don't notice it at all. Because I'm extra sensitive to de-aging.
Yeah.
Is there any de-aging in these films? Do they de-age any like dinosaurs or anything?
Yeah, no, the dinosaurs are actually 65 million years old.
Yeah, right. They're actually extinct and they've made them look alive. Yeah.
One other big complaint this film often gets is the death of the babysitter character, and it's a really interesting conversation to be had by like the mainstream. Because
I agreed. I was going to say the exact same thing. It is strange that shut up. It is strange that there are like think pieces written about something that's quite under the surface in this realm of conversation.
So what happens is, and this is a piece of dumb IMDb trivia, if you would like some now. So the character Zara is overheard planning her wedding. She later gets eaten by a Mosasaurus. It's framed as if it's ironic, like the Mosasaurus, a famously pro wedding dinosaur. But so what happens is there's a scene where the Indominus Rex gets into the aviary and also Irfan Khan's character smashes into it. And all the pterodactyls get loose and they terrorize Jimmy Buffett and many
How
other
do people know that's Jimmy Buffett? I don't.
Jimmy Buffett.
What does he look like? You can barely see him.
He has a chain of margarita thing, and so he's holding two margaritas, and that's kind of like the joke of it. But yeah, I don't know. It's just people are told it's Jimmy Buffett.
It's just like the product placement in this movie.
It's the Jimmy Buffett placement.
I wouldn't notice if people didn't tell me.
Yeah, and he was just trying to enjoy a cheeseburger in paradise. A song I'm quickly going to double check is by Jimmy Buffett.
I didn't even know he was a musician. I don't know what Jimmy Buffett does.
Cheeseburger in paradise. It's a weird song. Anyhow, so the pterodactyls are attacking, and there's this character Zara who has really she's been quite an ancillary character, that she's the babysitter that Claire assigned to her two nephews to look after them. They run away from her and get away. She never does anything wrong. She's just kind of distracted the whole time. And she gets picked up by while chasing after the two boys, gets picked up by a pterodactyl, and then that pterodactyl, a few others swoop and catch and pull her apart between them before, while she's being held by one, a mosasaur comes out of the sea and bites and eats the pterodactyl and Zara. And it's this weird thing because the big sort of discussion about it is that it's this really gruesome death that's really played out, and it's played out as if it's yes, finally this character's getting their dues, but she's done nothing wrong. It's she's an antagonistic force to the two boys because they want to explore, and she's a square who wants them to play by the rules. But even then, it's she's absolutely in the right, and the character is ripe for death in this kind of film. But it's the gratuity of her death and the enjoyment it feels like you're supposed to feel as an audience member. And we spoke about last week that Jurassic Park tends to have pretty good deserved deaths, the compy attack in the second one, the lawyer getting eaten on the toilet in the first one.
Even in Jurassic Park 3, for all its faults, I feel like the deaths in that are like, yes, this is the correct character to kill off. I'm never left being like, they let that guy survive? What the hell?
What do you think? Because I know you quite enjoyed her death.
Did I? Did I say that once and you've kept that in your back pocket?
No.
Oh, okay. You'd forgive me for thinking that was the situation. I always thought it was pretty weird. But I think I'm more fascinated by the fact that it became a think piece subject. I think that's really interesting from someone who, like, the way I look at movies is like very much like that kind of thing, far more than plot machinations.
It's weird seeing normies be as smart as you.
Yeah, it is weird seeing that, Richard. And I saw a TikTok a while ago which talked about this scene, and again, it was like almost from the perspective of someone who didn't know that there's a whole discourse around. So, like, you know, that speaks to its gratuitousness, right?
Yeah. Like, tap, can we talk about this?
Yeah, exactly. And this guy was like, I think it's wrong because this is I think it is the first female character you see killed in a Jurassic Park movie.
Oh, yeah. So it's sexist too.
Well, it's sexist in the sense that, like, the first Jurassic Park movie is very, like, intentionally feminist in a sort of strange way.
The dinosaurs are, like,
very clever girls.
Some of the best female and trans characters put to film.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
There's our second transgender franchise of the year.
Or let's call it franchise where transgenderism is a conversation to and our third one this year, after Sleepaway Camp.
Yeah, well, yeah, if you're counting Jurassic Park as two.
I was talking about Harry Potter.
No, well, I was talking about Sleepaway Camp.
Oh, goddamn. So anyway, there's that line in the first film where they're like, yada yada, God creates dinosaurs. You know
that bit in the first one where they're like, oh, fucking some
beautifully
shit,
written piece of dialogue. And it ends with dinosaurs eat man, women inherit the earth. And there is this idea in Jurassic Park that, like, this is where the men have got us, you know? Like, this is where the lads have got us. This is where
Saturdays are for the boys.
And what did those Saturdays reap? The rape of the natural world, as Ian Malcolm puts it. And
do
like
the voice.
And say rape of the natural world.
Yeah, come on, do it. Do the funny voice.
What you call what does he say? What do you call it?
This is run its course. Continue.
What is wrong with you tonight? You keep stitching me up. What have I done to you? I'm like Zara. I've done nothing wrong.
Yeah, well, I call me fucking Colin Trevorrow.
Anyway, I think that is another interesting perspective, and like it is a perspective which gets at the heart of what's wrong with perhaps the Jurassic World trilogy, but also perhaps these kinds of legacy blockbusters, and that is a voice at the center of it that does not fundamentally understand the ethos of the source material, right? Yeah. And I think that's what it is that there is a poetry to the characters who die in previous Jurassic Park movies, and she does not fit that poetry. And I would say there is a poetry to killing off characters in anything. And it is interesting to see one that's such a fucking misfire that it, got fucking BuzzFeed articles written about it.
And also, like, no one reacts to it really being this horrible thing.
Yeah.
Like, we talked last week about the lines in The Lost World, which is like, oh, I presume you're talking about our friend who, like, saved us by giving his life. Oh, boo-hoo, Mr. Malcolm. But
boo-hoo, Mr. Malcolm.
And it's just it's insane that just this film has this, like, massive smear on it, and it's such an interesting thing to be a stain.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
it is interesting.
But yeah, what do you like about the film?
What do I like about the film? Oh God, I like the way the T-Rex is, like, teased where you don't really see it.
Yeah.
Because it's behind a crowd, and then it's plays a big part of the ending. I like the I like stuff like Jimmy Fallon being a digital tour guide in the
well,
the,
again,
the
it like
little-
speaks to the commercialization and like
yeah
it suits being Jimmy Fallon. I mean, fuck, it should have been James Corden. Like,
yeah
it should be like, look at how like fucking capitalist this has gotten, and like how
look at how
sick you would be going like Jurassic World is like, oh god, you know,
yeah
it's like
Look
going
at
to
how
the mall at Christmas time.
what should be the most amazing thing in the world has become just another thing in the world, you know?
Yeah.
Which is a theme that should be the theme of the trilogy, but is not at all. It's more, it sort of just plays window dressing.
It speaks to like the way people look at the franchise as well, that it's like, well, I've seen CGI dinosaurs, what else you got?
Yeah.
And so you should make a more intelligent film, a film that's as intelligent as the original.
Yeah. Absolutely, I agree, Richard, 100%.
But I also, having said that, I like. I remember I said this about Terminator, that the Terminator sequels are like the key to what the Terminator franchise should be is just stop trying to be good.
Right.
Like,
well, and Jurassic Park is that then.
I almost
right?
think that and Jurassic World kind of like is that like it turned this smart, you know, like one of the best films ever made into just a turn your brain off film, have some fun with it, you know. And yeah, I think that there's a part of me that's like, oh, Jurassic World is good enough, you know.
Right.
Not every movie can be Jurassic Park, but like I'm happy if some are Jurassic World.
Okay. I like Jake Johnson's character. I'm surprised he's not in any of the others.
Yeah,
feels like a character you bring back.
He was announced to be in Dominion and then was just like never unannounced, but just didn't show up in the movie. He was also going to appear in Fallen Kingdom, and he met with Trevorrow, who was writing and producing it, and yeah, he had this idea that he was going to have like a ponytail now and sleeve tattoos and was going to be like a completely different person because he's so traumatized by the events of the first film. But yeah, Jake Johnson's sort of the man in the chair, one of the guys at Jurassic World, and Lauren Lapkus plays another one.
Yeah. What do you think of the other characters in this? I mentioned that I thought that was a terrible
I think
cast.
there's some of the strongest characters in blockbusters in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Just like physically.
Like Claire Dearing?
Claire Dearing, which there's a IMDb trivia I didn't bother copying over, but it's like Trevorrow and Derek Connolly, his writing partner, like came up with a name together, and it's like, and Trevorrow's like, I chose the name Claire, and then Derek chose Daring, which is classic Derek. And it's like, I don't care how she got her name. If I wanted to know more, I would read The Evolution of Claire.
I think as well, like, again, like, this invites comparison to Jurassic Park, which is a blockbuster with some of the coolest main characters I think we've seen at blockbusters. And so Claire, I think, is just there is no effort to make her particularly interesting or likable. I've read maybe some slightly too harsh reviews that were like, she should be in prison, this is all her fault. I think it's probably more Irfan Khan's. I feel like it's Irfan Khan's fault more than her fault.
Yeah. This is Irfan Khan's third appearance in a film or franchise which features a character named Richard Parker or someone who has played a character named Richard Parker.
Can you unpack that for me?
So he's in Life of Pi, where the character is just named, the tiger is named Richard Parker. The same year he was in...
The tiger is named Richard Parker?
Yeah, in Life of Pi. And then he was the same year he was in The Amazing Spider-Man, which has Richard Parker in it. That same actor plays Dodgson in Dominion. This observation was brought to you by dumb IMDb trivia. This is me trying to make up my own, like I did that time.
It's a randomly placed useless statistic in a way. I guess we haven't covered Life of Pi, but
it's a good movie.
One thing that I also don't like is they Chris Pratt's character Owen Grady is like
He's a prat.
he feels designed in a lab in a writer's room,
like a clone.
Very good. And I've got here's something that I think is a massive step down with this whole trilogy. I think velociraptors are cooler when they're scary and untrained and smarter than you. I think the whole storyline of the guy who's got a special bond with a particular velociraptor and can coexist with it and touch it and team up with it. I get that it looks very cool on a movie poster. I think it sucks. I think it character assassinates the velociraptor. Maybe one of the greatest villains in movie history is now like docile and like there is a powder keg nature to that. You know, it's an animal and it could go haywire at any moment. But one, that never happens, and two. I think it's cooler when they're like how they are in the original trilogy.
Would like to respectfully disagree. I think that
piece of shit, you bastard.
that the taming of the Velociraptor is again one of those things that I really like about Jurassic World. On paper, I'll say necessarily, maybe not entirely in the film, but it speaks to this like. Bringing the franchise back to be like, okay, everything you loved about the first one, which you've been watching for the last 22 years, everyone's now bored of. And so nerfing the Velociraptors is like, what else you got? And
what else do they have? It's like nothing, though.
A big Velociraptor.
All the villain dinosaur in the first two Jurassic Worlds aren't real dinosaurs, which I think is very lame and like that. Like they should be existing.
I'm fine with them doing it once, but they should have done it in Fallen Kingdom. But the idea that they had to invent a new dinosaur, but then the plot is so stupid around like, well, okay, what did you put in the dinosaur? Well, can't tell you that. And it's like this is who is like above you on this.
Yeah. Let me speak to them. Yeah. Do you know what happens if we don't know everything about this dinosaur? What's just happened is what happens. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
So no returning characters in this film except for Dr. Henry Wu.
Again, that's a thing I love on paper, that it's like, yeah, the first one, let's not bring back any legacy characters. Let's bring back, because it makes sense that Henry Wu would still be involved somehow. Maybe he shouldn't be in 2 and 3, but I do like that.
That's what I was getting at. Yeah. Is he's a guy.
We will talk about Wu when we get to Dominion as well.
All right.
We don't have to. I wasn't having to say you can't talk about him now, but
I just don't think he's a very good actor. I think he's acting in a cheesier movie than everyone who's acting opposite him.
Yeah, sure. Do you remember the trailer for this film?
No.
Full of badass lines like, that depends on what kind of dinosaur they cooked up in that lab. I remember quoting that
so
with you
stupid.
all the time.
I remember watching the trailer and being like, this looks awful, because it's like a bunch of Hollywood lines like that. Yeah, the depends what kind of dinosaur they cooked up in that lab. And there was another one that was in the trailer as well.
You just went ahead and made a new dinosaur?
That's it.
Probably not a good idea. You just went ahead,
made a new dinosaur?
Made a new dinosaur?
My terrible Chris Pratt. I remember hearing that Glenn Howerton was in the running to play Owen Grady, and just doing those lines as Glenn. You just made a new dinosaur! Just doing it as Dennis from Always Sunny.
Jurassic World.
God, we had fun, didn't we?
We did.
So
remember when we used to do What If Christopher Walken played Blofeld and Inspector?
No.
It's me, James, the author of all your pain. I remember late night drives to McDonald's, giggling away in the car about that.
Do we want to talk more about the like unresolved Chekhov's guns, or did we dwell on that as much as we needed to?
I think it's funnier if it doesn't come up again.
Okay. Yep. Agreed. Cool. All right. Well, what else is there to
got a couple
Jurassic
more pieces of
World
dumb
about?
IMDb trivia. This one's not necessarily dumb. It's actually kind of fun, but it's just funny that it was there. The Indominus Rex was the first dinosaur to go extinct on Isla Nublar.
That's good.
Yeah. James Cameron expressed interest in directing the original Jurassic Park when the film rights were first put up for bids. Reportedly, he wanted Arnold Schwarzenegger to play the lead role. Chris Pratt is now Schwarzenegger's son-in-law.
Is he really?
Yeah, he's married to Schwarzenegger's daughter.
Chris Pratt is?
Hmm.
Huh, I didn't know that.
Well, you do not keep up with celebrity gossip.
Clearly
They
not.
have a very healthy son.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yes, I remember all this.
Unlike some wives of Chris's. Yeah, that's true. Is there anything else you want to say about Jurassic World, or are you? Oh, actually, sorry. There's one. I had the one piece of Don't Mind Me to Be trivia was on another page. It's abundantly clear that Delta detests Hoskins, foreshadowing the ending when Delta finally mauls him to death.
Hoskins being Vincent D'Onofrio's character.
What do you think of him? So yeah, it's interesting because his sort of ideas become major things in the next film. But yeah, he has this idea about using the raptors as like military weapons, and yeah, the whole. It's so funny that his name's Hoskins as well. Like I don't know, I just find something about the name Hoskins and like, God damn it, Hoskins.
Well, there's Wheatley in the next one there's literally a line, Wheatley, you son of a bitch, which I thought was like the stupidest thing
like
ever.
from Portal 2.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Speaking...
No more thoughts on Jurassic World.
Yeah. Let us know
on.
your thoughts in the Cold Elders segment. You have until like when we get to it. Which, if you listen to this, you missed your chance. So, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom came out a few years later in 2018. This time directed by J.A. Bayona, who's a Spanish like horror director, sort of. And yeah, what do you think it has on Rotten Tomatoes?
54%.
Ooh, way too high. It's got 47%.
It's not way too high.
It's
under 10.
Under 10.
If something was 87 and 94, you'd be like, yep, they're both as good as each other.
Unless I felt like saying you were way off that time.
I guess that's true.
Yeah.
I guess that is the chaos theory of which.
Yeah, that's the chaos of hosting a podcast with me.
It's chaos.
You never know what I'm going to do. Could do anything. So, interestingly, this also, you know, like this film, which was pretty universally panned, was at the time was the 12th highest grossing film of all time. It's now the 16th.
Oh, really?
It's
I did not think this was going to make any records
spoilers
at all.
for Jurassic World Dominion. It's currently sitting pretty at like 911 million, and if it gets like 66 million more, it'll enter the top 50.
Wow, they've pushed it to streaming now, so I don't think that's going to happen. That's a strange move, isn't it, to push it to streaming while it's still in theaters?
I mean, it's still out here. It's not unlikely it would make another 66 million. What's it about?
Oh, okay. So, there's a volcano going off on Isla Nublar, and there's schools of thought, good ideas for a movie, executed awfully. But basically there are two schools of thought, one saying like, no, this is nature course correcting and we should let the dinosaurs die, and one saying, no, we should go save the dinosaurs because they have just as many rights as other animals.
Human animals.
Human animals. And so Claire is part of this like resistance team that wants to save them. We get a brief scene of Jeff Goldblum returning to the series as Ian Malcolm, where he says we should let them die. But the main characters are sort of this rescue crew.
He's like testifying before Congress about it.
Yeah. This crew of nerds and mercenaries go to
That'd
Isla
be a good theme
Nublar
for a party.
Yeah. They go to get all the dinosaurs out. It turns out that it's actually a double cross, and the mercenaries are there to steal a bunch of dinosaurs and then leave the island where they can sell them to the highest bidder. So there's about half the movie takes place on the island, and a good few, maybe like just under 100 dinosaurs get shipped off. We watch a very sad scene where brontosaurus type looking motherfucker dies.
Well,
dies in
allegedly
the volcanic smoke.
the same first Brachiosaurus or whatever we saw in the first Jurassic Park. They've word of God said that it's the first dinosaur you see. It's that same one.
You see it die. And the second half of the film, I like, if I'm trying to make this film sound like a cool experimental thing, I tell people the second half is actually a haunted house movie. Because it's set in this mansion where this auction's going on, and oh no, the dinosaurs have gotten loose. There's an Indoraptor. They just made a new dinosaur.
Probably not a good idea. Depends on what kind of Indoraptor they cooked up in their lab.
Yep, this guy is just even more psychopathic than any other dinosaur.
And so I want to explain how the Indoraptor works, because it's a sticking point for me. So the way the Indoraptor is designed is that it will kill anything that moves, and that's also a line from the first Jurassic World trailer as well. And it's like, she'll kill anything that moves, and it's I remember seeing it like spelled out, but So what they've designed this Indoraptor to do is that when you like fire with like a gun-shaped device, you fire a laser at what you want to die, and then you pull the trigger to emit a sound, and that sound triggers the Indoraptor to go kill the thing you're pointing at. Now, so let's break this down. So you see the thing you want to die, you point a gun-shaped object at it, and then you pull a trigger so that the Indoraptor will kill it for you. Now, this is the next evolution in technology, because let's break down the way that you would normally kill something. So what you do is you point a gun-shaped object at the thing you want to die, you pull the trigger, and then the thing dies. There's no other... It's so stupid. You're adding extra steps and acting like it's... This, like, what benefit does this have at all? They never explain why it's beneficial to have the Indoraptor do it than a bullet. And I don't want to sound like I'm defending guns, but I don't want our school kids going to school with Indoraptors.
It reminds me of the new Adobe update to the Creative Suite. It's now, you can't go save as JPEG on Photoshop anymore. You've got to go down to export, and then you've got to go export as, and then it brings up another screen. Like, who was the smartass in Adobe who was like, how about we add more steps between
what everyone wants to do with this?
What everyone wants to do, saving your project. Like, it's infuriating. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, that's the auction's going on, and this is it's not actually supposed to be for sale, but the Toby Jones's character hears
our second Toby Jones franchise in a row after he played Dobby in Harry Potter.
That he hears a figure so high. He's insistent on.
This is so funny. This is one of the funniest gaffes in blockbusters trying to be taken seriously. If you haven't seen this movie, people listening to this podcast, how much would you expect a dinosaur to go for at an auction? I would guess $1 billion for the lowest valued dinosaur. They go for about $10 million.
This is like football players are traded between companies between teams for less than this.
Yeah, it is so funny that for no reason, they could have set a price to anything. It's a movie. And they just decided that $10 million, at one point they're like, we've made over $160 million on this auction. We can't close it.
Yeah, it's insane.
It's the price of a house in Auckland.
But yeah, so let's get to how does the film end?
Okay, so the film ends... so what is, I guess, all of the dinosaurs? That doesn't seem right. It's a very small room. But I guess all of the dinosaurs left in the world?
Yeah.
Are these the only ones left? There's like maybe half a dozen?
Well, it's kind of also never really explained what happened to the ones on Isla Sorna.
It is in Dominion. They mention Isla Sorna. So they're in this room that through various plot, it's filling with noxious gas.
Hydrogen cyanide.
And the film presents our lovable main characters. I hate the characters. They're so boring. Presents them with somewhat of a trolley problem, Richard. do nothing and course correct history, or
and watch all of these dinosaurs die right in front of them that they've built bonds with.
Well, sort of, or let them go, and they can't bring themselves to let them go because that'll let them free on the world. But by the way, there's this whole other storyline about this little girl who was supposedly the granddaughter of a character named Lockwood, who you guys will remember as John Hammond's best friend from only this movie, who apparently is the co-founder of Jurassic Park. Do you reckon they went through the canon and was like, do we ever specifically say John Hammond
has no friends.
Is the founder? You know, can we wiggle on this a little bit? But anyway, it turns out he's not his granddaughter. It turns out she's not his granddaughter. She's actually the clone of his dead daughter. And so they can't press the button.
He cloned her and that's why Hammond and him had a falling out.
Because you're not supposed to clone people. So she presses the button. She solves this trolley problem, and lets these dinosaurs out into the world where they are to wreak havoc. And
what does she say?
What does she? She says they're like me.
They're alive like me, and they all just go. Yeah. Well,
let's go in descending order of most obvious to maybe like the thing you might not have thought of why this is a horrible thing to happen in both the world of the film and the screenplay. So the obvious one is like thousands of people are going to die and do die because she let loose essentially a zombie apocalypse in dinosaur form on the earth, right? So let's talk about that. The other thing is like, it's actually not like this film likes it feels like it's trying to get back to the first film's conversation around ethics and chaos and like it's like the question at the heart of the film is a relevant one. It is a good question to ask of what do you do when these dinosaurs are in danger? Is it your responsibility as the people, you know, the species that brought them back into the world to save them, or is this nature course correcting? I think the movie assumes you're siding with saving them a little too much, whereas I would have actually liked a lot more balance there, because I think I don't know what I would pick personally, but I think it's a really interesting question, and the kill the dinosaurs party just immediately get branded as the villains, other than Jeff Goldblum, I guess. So all of that is at the heart of the film, but they're not like you just because you're a clone. What a superficial commonality to think is worth all of this, right? It is like, what if they were birthed normally? Do I press the button because they're birthed normally and I was too? Like, it is not it's treated like it's this like mind blowing, like, oh, of course, the sympathetic like approach to it. But I don't think it's that strong of a connection. I think a clone human could easily understand the ramifications and meaning of not letting a bunch of dinosaurs loose. And you can say, oh, well, she's a little girl. She made like a immature decision.
Don't let her near the button.
Don't let the movie and the characters treat it with reverence, like it's the hard decision none of the adults could make. Stupid. Thirdly, it is actually environmentally detrimental to let loose a new species into a ecosystem. This happened, there's a big TikTok controversy at the moment because some guy let loose like 1,000 frogs into a place where there were no frogs, right? This is not like, I went to high school with a guy a couple years out of high school, found out he got arrested. No, sort of. He got arrested because he tried to smuggle lizards into New Zealand on a plane, and they had to euthanize the lizards, right? And that's just like that. But that's just how it goes. And so what I'm saying is like there is an understanding of like how delicate an ecosystem is, which means do not introduce like a new massive dominant life form into that ecosystem. This is what. Like before 9/11, this is what the TSA was for. Was making sure. Sorry, well, you know, airport security was for like making sure you didn't disrupt the ecosystem of the country that you're moving to, and like so. You can say like, oh, but they're clones. Oh, you can even be on the side of like we should let them live because they're our responsibility now. Great, sure, that's valid. But like the decision ethically of whether or not to let dinosaurs loose into the world, ethically the answer is no, they should be euthanized. Maybe it's sad to kill them through noxious gas, but you got to work with the when life gives you lemons, you know. So another thing that I have a problem with in this film, and
just one,
Richard, occasionally I'll tell you an idea I have for, I'll script doctor a film, and it's very rarely have you been really excited about my idea. Usually you make fun of me, or you're not that enthused,
or I suggest a dumb title.
Yeah, I have got a tiny change to this movie, and I'm hoping this is a pearl. I'm hoping this is going to be something where you hear it and you go, "Oh my god!" Of course,
and I purr, yeah,
you
like
purr.
a cat. What did you say?
Pearl, like a
pearl?
pearl?
I think so. Yeah, you're hoping this is going to be a purr.
Like
I'm gonna love your idea so much. I go.
Well, if you want, I'm more a bit like a pearl of an idea. So one, I think
I
this
also
came
have a script doctor for this.
Okay, this came out of the fact that I started thinking, God, isn't it convenient that it's a volcano going off on Isla Nublar that's making them go, like, what a convenient for the plot, like it's literally an act of God, and it makes the conversations around what we should do about it, I think, sort of stacked in the let it happen, because there's something so divine about it.
It is interesting as well that in the original novel it's mentioned that Isla Nublar is an active volcano.
Right.
But
I don't think it's mentioned in the film. And speaking of the original novel, should the threat not obviously be napalm? Shouldn't it be a human...
Oh, yeah.
Like a human... So then it's not, do we save them from nature? It's... Humans are now trying, because then I could get on the side of the let's save them, because now it's like humans continuing to human, like man
Humans
continuing. Exactly. Humans are continuing to meddle in the life of, this de-extinct creature.
Stopping life from finding a way.
And I think that is a much more compelling, sympathetic charge for these main characters who would not have returned. I think that's another thing we could talk about. But the threat should be, because that is all the same effects of a volcano. You can have all the same
hellfire
scenes,
raining from the sky.
All the same set pieces, and it's, I think, then even more sad when they fail and you see that brachiosaur dying, and it's at the hands of human interference again.
I get where you're coming from, but I don't have an issue with the volcano plot. I think the entire movie could have been the volcano plot, but
or even if you're dropping napalm into the volcano to set it, I just think it's a little too convenient and a little too. It feels like all of a sudden God is a character in Jurassic Park,
our second God franchise of the year. But I do think that. I mean, it's like you build a theme park on an active volcano. Maybe if they'd established as a volcano earlier, but it's like it's going to happen at some point. It's a conversation we have to have at some point. But you mentioned there.
So that's a really great thing to mention, because that means that if the events of Jurassic World had not happened, they would still have the volcano. That's stupid. It should be plot should be predicated on the foolish actions of men. That should be especially
a theme park
in
on a volcano is pretty foolish.
Okay, fine. Fair enough.
It's the most foolish thing man can do. But so you talked about something there that I do want to talk about. This is one of my big complaints of the film, is that when I watched it the first time, I was like, there's no fucking way I would ever side with the fact that they go back. It's so stupid that they would go back. But then watching it,
I was talking specifically about Owen and Claire.
Owen and Claire, yeah. And I think that, it's this interesting thing watching it now, and I've talked a little bit in how in the last year I've gained empathy by owning 2 cats, but like I think watching it now, and it's like knowing, because I remember watching the trailer and being like, they go back to the island, like, why do they go back to the island? Like, explain this to me. And then watching the movie and be like, I'm not satisfied with that explanation. Knowing what the explanation is going into it and everything, that it's literally just they just go because it's their duty to save the animals. It's like, I think again, and this is one of the big issues with this film, that just with slightly better writing, you could fix so many issues. And it's like, you know, when Claire says, listen, Owen, Blue's alive, the last surviving Velociraptor, the one you formed this bond with since birth. And he's like, oh, nah, like, it's still, we should just let them die. And then he goes, oh, yeah, all right, I'll come with you. And it's like, if Chris Pratt had been like, you know, no, like, as soon as she said Blue's alive, he's like, right, I'm getting on that plane, you know? Like, he should have wanted to go back to the island. And I said it before that I liked in Jurassic Park 3 that Alan doesn't go to the island voluntarily. And I was thinking about this today, that the way Ian Malcolm goes to the island in 2, it also kind of makes sense, because his character had the breeziest time in the original Jurassic Park. He had the least interactions with deadly dinosaurs. So it makes sense that he would be the one willing to go back with, like, you know, he's obviously reluctant, but he's not like, you know, Alan Grant, there's nothing on God's green earth that would get me back on that island. And yeah, I think just if you'd slightly rewritten the characters and maybe played up Claire's guilt a little bit more, that, but like Claire just, her turn from Jurassic World to this one doesn't feel completely earned. But
because she's a Play-Doh character, like no convictions, she's so malleable.
Yeah, and she should be convicted. But I do want to talk about one thing about this film, and this is one of my films I reference quite a bit as like as an example of something, is that this is one of, if not the most well-directed bad film I've ever seen. This is...
I would love for you to explain this. You've been saying this for years, and it's never quite clicked with Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom for me.
Well, I think the statement stands for itself. So, anytime that a page of the script would say T-Rex shows up in the shadows, character 1, run, they run away from it, blah blah blah. On like, when you see that on screen, it's gorgeous. It's like some of the most well sort of like choreographed and shot and, you know, and blocked things in the entire franchise. Anytime when characters are actually saying anything is just horrible. And it's this is the perfect example of like a good director cannot save a bad script. That like you can make terrible movies out of great scripts, but you can't make a great movie out of a terrible script. Like, there's so many like such gorgeous visual storytelling in this film. The opening scene of this film, which is a team of mercenaries are trying to get DNA from the Indominus Rex, which is like still at the bottom of the lagoon by Jurassic World. Then the Mosasaurus like destroys their submersible, and then the T-Rex attacks their helicopter as they're trying to fly away, and it's one of the best sequences in the franchise. Like, I'll say
it's what the whole movie should have been.
It's so fucking well done. So there's a character who has to, you know, turn on the power or whatever, and the other characters are yelling at him to run, and he can't hear them. And we see a shot from their point of view yelling at him, and there's a crack of lightning, and you see the outline of the T-Rex, and it's like, yeah, one of the best shots in the franchise. And same with the, you know, that they're leaving the, you know, the script would have said they look back and they see the Brachiosaurus dying, and it's one of the most emotionally affecting parts of the franchise. It's the only part of this film which this film was predicated on the fact that, no, we have to save these animals. That's the only time where I've been like, fuck, they do have to save them.
And they didn't.
Yeah, and they didn't. And there's some really, like, when the eye raptor creeps into Maisie's bedroom, and it's like, yeah, sure. That's really well done. There's one of my favorite shots in the film is there's like a statue of a horse, and we see that, but the shadow that it's casting is actually the shadow being cast by the I-Rex, and it looks the same, but then it like opens and it has its sharp teeth. And yeah, there's some really, really good, like, well-made stuff in this film. But this is the clearest example of the different of what directing is that you take a terrible script and you give it to a good director, and you can see where they're able to pump, to fix it, and where they're not able to.
I've never brought myself to rewatch it, but I always thought that the Predator, the Shane Black Predator movie,
Yeah.
is like, you can see the Shane Black's a good storyteller, and you can see where that begun and where like producer interference changed it into something stupid. So yeah, similar thing. Okay, now I can understand what they mean, and it's more than just cinematography, isn't it? Because a T-Rex appearing in a lightning flash is an idea that is more than just a visual idea.
Yeah. And it's like the cinematography is probably the best it is in the franchise, but it's how to block a scene and things like that. It's really well done. Like you said, the idea of like a Jurassic Park movie that's a haunted house movie is like, maybe 5 into a franchise. Let's see what that looks like. But I do think, maybe running away from dinosaurs plus volcano might have felt a little bit repetitive. But yeah, I mean, I could have watched just the volcano movie,
So I've got so many jumping off points of things I want to talk about specifically Fallen Kingdom from what you've just said. Let's go with it could have just been the volcano movie. This is not only retreading something I said on the original Jurassic Park episode, but retreading what I'm sure is like probably an ongoing recurring joke on the podcast since then.
Yeah.
That opening scene is all based around the Mosasaurus, right?
Yeah.
And I believe my original Continue the Franchise for the original Jurassic Park episode was Jurassic Waters, which you hilariously called Jurassic Park. And my pitch was
Jurassic Park.
Jurassic Park. My pitch was that you combine Jaws with Jurassic Park, and you don't even be shy about it. You go, no, it's Spielberg legacy property. We're going to do a Spielberg send-up by doing Jaws, but what if it was a mosasaur, And, like, thinking about where the script, where the trajectory of the series wants us to get by the third film, you can still do Jurassic Waters. All you do is that it's about the gate is open and the mosasaur is on the loose, and like
terrorizing cruise ships.
The idea is that dinosaurs are escaping, and maybe that's the crux of the film is they're trying to herd them back into the park, and the mosasaur is just the dominant
the hardest
set piece.
One, and then the third one should be called Jurassic War.
Yeah, there you go, and that's everyone's out, or Jurassic Wasteland. You said the other day, which I quite liked. So the other thing I want to talk about, other things I want to talk about, is it Justice Smith? Is he in this movie?
Yes, plays.
Yeah,
what's his good name? I always think it's Lincoln, but no, it's Franklin. Franklin
is a character who, if he were played by an older, probably white dude,
Tom Holland.
No, older, like fucking like think like I don't know, like the kind of actors that you see in heaps of things.
Give me an age.
Let's go 40, late 40s. Let's go 48.
48-year-old actors.
I'm talking like not A-list, like you see them in every sitcom for one episode kind of.
Christian Bale. Seth MacFarlane.
Okay, sure. Let's go Seth MacFarlane. Probably a bit too famous.
Seth Green.
Yeah, sure.
Steve Burns from Blue's Clues.
My point is
Randall
that
Park.
If the character was, of a different like age, he's absolutely a character you would kill off. And there is a scene in the movie where him and Claire are escaping from this like underground bunker, and lava's dripping in, and there's this dinosaur that gets lava dripped off, and it just sort of shakes it off like it's like a fly. And
again, a beautiful scene when they're looking down the pipe and a bit of lava drips and it illuminates the dinosaur.
But, like, if you get touched with a drop of lava, you're down for the count.
Yeah.
Anyway, and they're running towards the like, escape shaft, the ladder, and Claire climbs up it, and then Franklin climbs up it, and he has a moment of relief where he's like, we're gonna make it, and then the ladder, like,
he literally
unlocks.
says, we're gonna make it.
Yeah, and then the ladder unlocks and crashes to the ground, but he's still able to get up. I miss the old Jurassic Park, because in the old Jurassic Park, that's how that character fucking dies. You know?
Like, he was played by Stephen Ogg.
Yeah, thank you. What a great call. Like, the language of that scene is like, and you know, the mercilessness of the rules that govern Jurassic World, you know? Like, it is written that way, and he gets away and contributes nothing really to the rest of the plot that couldn't be contributed by other characters. And I think a big problem with the Jurassic World sequels is this unwillingness to kill anyone. And we'll talk about it in Dominion, but like, there is a scene in this where it's Franklin and Claire in the glass ball thing that they drive around
gyrosphere.
The gyrosphere, and Chris Pratt is running behind them away from a volcanic eruption and a dinosaur.
Ash.
Yeah, and a dinosaur stampede, and the ball is going towards a cliff, and it falls off the cliff. You see Chris Pratt get consumed by the smoke. And then you see the ball falls off the cliff into the water, where Chris Pratt eventually shows up and frees them.
And a bunch of dinosaurs fall into the water as well, in what is, again, a beautiful shot.
And like, it's so like, this is the kind of thing where it's like, this is clearly like they're thinking about the truck hanging off the cliff in the Lost World, and they're like, we want a big set piece that is like not because of dinosaurs, but it's exacerbated by the dinosaurs, right?
But certainly not helping.
Yeah, and I think the reason why the Lost World scene is still better is because that scene is like, I recognize what a truck is, I recognize what a cliff is, whereas this is like
you see a volcano, you're like, what's that?
Well, it's kind of, like, in a way. Like, it's certainly less common, and also...
Well, also, like, we're told that, like, being close to lava and, like, volcanic ash is, like, one breath of that and you're fucking dead. And then, so you see this and you're like, do I not understand volcanoes, or do you not understand volcanoes?
Exactly, that's exactly what I'm saying. And I think as well, it's something about that gyrosphere being such a futuristic-looking thing. I'm severed from the tension, because it's like, if this was a truck, this would be dope. It's like,
why not just make your gyrosphere fucking fly? It probably can do that.
Yeah, fucking hell. And it's this problem with killing off characters, where it's, well, I mean, really the solution would be like, how about we don't have Owen get consumed by the volcanic ash on screen, because everyone knows that would kill you. You know, like, everyone knows that. And I think that's just like a real dumb attempt. It's a real dumb attempt at recreating something that's really cool from the original films. What do you think of the T-Rex blood transfusion? That's a scene that you write down on paper, and you're like, we gotta do a T-Rex blood transfusion. Because Blue has been shot. And they need to bring her back to life by using another... apparently T-Rexes and raptors share the same blood types. I'm sure that's not true at all.
Yeah.
But,
well, dinosaurs aren't real, so...
No, they were real.
Yeah, if you believe that. Yeah, there's a lot of, like, just so much stupid shit in this film. One that really annoyed me, I remember when I watched it, is that we see the Indoraptor just, like, tear through a fucking steel staircase like it's made out of tinfoil, and it's like just destroying this magic, ripping everything in its path to shreds. Most powerful fucking dinosaur I've seen in the whole franchise. It's chasing after Maisie, the little clone girl, through a hallway. She gets into her dumbwaiter, shuts the tiny wooden door just in time, and the Iraptor goes, "Ow, my head! I guess I can't kill her," and then leaves. And it's like,
the Iraptor actually talks in this.
yeah, we should have mentioned that. But yeah, it's insane.
God, we're one Jurassic Park sequel away from talking dinosaurs.
I legitimately thought it was going to happen in Dominion. there's a scene where it really seemed like it was going to happen.
Alan.
Yeah, no, like
oh, we already had one. I forgot.
Yeah. It's fun seeing Jeff Goldblum back, and he does a name drop of "Welcome to Jurassic World,"
and it's like he was teased as returning to the franchise. He's in literally one scene, and it's the
two
scene
scenes
they used of him
Start
in the
and
trailer.
But he
but it's the same. It is the same space and time though. It's just artistically broken up, so you see it.
No, it's two different scenes, isn't it?
Isn't it? I thought it was from that same case, from that same hearing.
I think it's, I don't know. Anyway, it's in a podcast interview, Goldblum said, "It's small, who knows, they may cut me out entirely, but if I stay in, I'll be a sprig of parsley or a little garnish, hopefully with some impact."
He is a sprig of parsley.
Yeah.
He is a little garnish.
And also the film ends with this montage of like, this is a neo-Jurassic age, and humans and dinosaurs must learn to coexist, which is why I think it's a different, because he's talking about whether or not we should save the dinosaurs, and now he's talking about, well, now that they're everywhere, we're going to have to learn.
Okay.
And then it shows free dinosaurs, a little montage of dinosaurs roaming urban areas, and then Jurassic World Dominion ends the same fucking way, but we'll get to that. So there's also, I didn't know this until I was doing research, but there's a post-credit scene to this film.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's 3 pterodactyls flying and landing on the Eiffel Tower in Las Vegas. It's 15 seconds long.
Oh, well, I'd love to have seen that. You told me what it is before I could make the Samuel L. Jackson joke.
Hold on to your butts.
That he turns up and asks the fucking T-Rex if he wants to join the Jurassic Initiative.
And then
nice.
Samuel Jackson shows up. Anywho,
and he's missing an arm because it's actually still the character.
Yeah. And Samuel Jackson always shows up missing something he should have 2 of. in post-credit scenes. So at the end of Star Wars, Mace Windu shows up with 1 testicle.
You don't know. Yeah. It's not brought up, but we know. It's canon.
So, is there anything else you want to say about Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom?
No, I never want to talk about it.
No, I just want to say that until 24-ish hours ago, I thought, God, could Jurassic World get any worse? This is as stupid and as bad as a Jurassic Park movie can be. And now, you know what? I think it's got its moments. It's not that bad.
Oh.
So, Jurassic World Dominion came out just a few months ago, maybe even last month, I think, actually. And it's out. What do you think it has on Rotten Tomatoes?
39.
30. So it's the lowest in the franchise. It was again directed by Colin.
Lowest in the franchise.
It was again directed by Colin Trevorrow, who apparently saw what a great job J.R. Bayona did on the second film and thought, I want to do the third one again.
Was it not an omen when it was basically the Star Wars sequel trilogy beats repeated, that J.J. Abrams did the first one, then someone else did the second one, and then he came back and made it bad? When
it was announced that he was just going to produce and Bayona was going to direct the second one, he said that he feels like Jurassic World is a franchise that should be like Mission Impossible, or like what they're doing with the new Star Wars films, which the first one of which came out a few months after Jurassic World, where each one should be a new director. And he, at the time, was going to be one of those new directors. Of course, he was not. And instead, he thought, you know what, I'm going to make Book of Henry. And, well, that's probably why
that's what got him fired from Star Wars 9, yeah. And he was always a weird choice for Star Wars 9, but in retrospect, I think his film would have probably been somewhat better than Skywalker.
Yeah. Speaking of Rise of Skywalker, what's Jurassic World Dominion about?
Okay, so get this.
Fuck, man. I'm like... so this is the thing. Like, Fallen Kingdom, I've had... 4 years to come to terms with. I've had 24 hours to come to terms with, and I haven't come to terms with Jurassic World Dominion yet. I'm still like so mad about
pretty
this.
Definitive.
No.
I would say I haven't come to terms with it yet because I'm still thinking about it.
No, I haven't. It's not reached. It's not made it into my like subconscious as a fact that this movie is as bad as it is. Are
you saying you've yet to heal from it?
Yeah. It's I haven't recovered from it. It's not that I haven't made my mind up from it. It's that it hasn't. The wounds are still fresh.
So we start with a premise that it feels like the last two movies have wanted to start with, which is like now dinosaurs and humans exist in the world together.
And it's like, that's why you call the franchise Jurassic World, because you're building to this.
Yeah. But the plot seems to be more concerned with giant locusts are wreaking havoc on crops, and like prehistorically large locusts. And it turns out that these are sort of, what is it? They're like an industry plant from Biosyn.
So Biosyn, who hasn't been mentioned in the franchise up until now, but they are part of the novel, a competitor for InGen, who they're sort of this global conglomerate, and they make Biosyn crops, and then they've genetically altered these locusts to eat all the crops that aren't Biosyn. Obviously, with the help of Henry Wu, who's back at it again, and Biosyn is headed by Dodgson, who looks quite different from when he last saw him, which is. Of course, due to some bad reasons. But Dodgson is, if you've seen the original Jurassic Park, you know the scene where Nedry gets the Barbasol can from the guy in the hat who wants to remain anonymous, and so now he's back. He's played by a different actor. He's played by the guy who played Richard Parker in the Amazing Spider-Man movies, because the original actor is in prison for sexually assaulting a 13-year-old girl. But so for some reason, the only people that can stop the locusts is our original trilogy of Ali Stadler, Alan Grant, and Ian Malcolm, all reprising their roles from the first film. It's the first time we've seen all three of them on screen together in 29 years. And what else? So that's kind of their plot. Alan and Ian Malcolm works at Biosyn. Ali and Alan go in and try to, because the idea is that they can splice the DNA out of the locusts and release like a pathogen that will kill all of them within one generation. That's one plot.
Yeah, there's also the little clone girl who is now being parented by Owen and Claire, because as we've established with those characters, they always wanted a kid together.
Yeah.
I don't know, there's a real vibe of like, they've finally got their unconventional family.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
But she, they don't let her go out too far, because as she thinks they don't trust her, because of course they don't, because she doomed the human race.
But she gets kidnapped along with Blue's baby raptor, and so they team up with a cool, hip, mercenary airplane flyer pilot. And she helps them get to Biosyn, where the girls and the raptors being held. What is Dodgson's plan ultimately? It's like, what does he want to do?
It's fun because
what's wrong with any of this?
Yeah. So Dodgson, it is funny, like, it doesn't need, like, they were like, oh, let's bring back a character from the first one. If you can't get the same actor, it didn't need to be the same character. This film can be summed up as Dodgson. We got Dodgson over here. See, nobody cares.
I think Dodgson being brought back into the franchise, especially with the context of not having the same actor, is one of the funniest examples of like a pointless legacy character returning. You know, something you see in Star Wars all the time. Because I never thought of Dodgson as like the leader. I thought he was a foot soldier.
He's in the last 30 years he's risen to the top. But he
I don't know, it seems pointless.
He's also very clearly just supposed to be Tim Cook of Apple.
Right. Okay.
Like the character's designed in the exact same way, and you hired a new actor who looked like that. But yeah, so eventually our original trilogy of characters and our two characters we've spent 3 movies with, and the new one, the pilot, all end up together in an hour and 40 minutes into the movie.
Biosyn is like in this like sanctuary they've made for dinosaurs, and so it takes place in like effectively a Jurassic Park. But this is like a Jurassic National Park.
Yeah, but then the film ends with the dinosaurs are let out of, well, the dinosaurs are like, the sanctuary remains a sanctuary, but dinosaurs are still out and about. And there's a montage where they go, looks like dinosaurs and humans are going to have to learn to live together, which is exactly how the last film ended.
It's like does nothing with the premise. It's like it takes a left turn and becomes about locusts for no reason.
Like,
no. Like you I didn't know this before watching this film. I assumed, and we even talked about this on the most dumbest looking films of 2022 podcast we did at the start of the year, that like we were talking about how the smart way to end this movie would be with dinosaurs absolutely eviscerating humanity, but it's not going to be that. And like the film isn't even about the coexistence of dinosaurs.
So the thing is as well that because Colin Trevorrow, and I said this on the most anticipated, he talked about fucking Colin Trevorrow's comments. So there's one comment he made that was real smart. There's one comment he made that was real dumb. I'll get the smart one first. So he said that the idea, because it wasn't a whole shitload of dinosaurs released into the world, it was, a small amount, but they were able to breed asexually. But the idea would be that they were the same kind of threat as like bears and tigers are at the moment. It's like things that everyone's aware of, but you're unlikely to actually run into, but they are a very real threat. And I was like, yeah, it's interesting, like the idea of, it's not a Planet of the Apes thing where they're taking over. It's just like, yeah, what if the predators you have to be wary for when you go camping are the greatest predators that have ever lived? And, build from that. And then he also made a comment that the new villain dinosaur in this film, I need to look up because it looks like it should be Giganotosaurus, but it's not. It's like
Giga something. Gigabyte.
Yeah, the Giganotosaurus. Let me Control F. Giganotosaurus. The Giga, we'll call it. So yeah, it's Colin Trevorrow said the Giga is like the Joker for some reason.
That's right.
But
I forgot about that.
So he said, yeah, the new villain dinosaur is like the Joker. He just wants to watch the world burn. The Giganotosaurus, fucking, this is what it does in the movie. It shows up. It tries to eat. It faces off against the T-Rex for a meal, and it wins because it's more dominant. And then at the end, the T-Rex and fucking Salad Fingersaurus just team up and kill the Giga, and it's supposed to be this big fuck you moment. But it's like, it hasn't done anything wrong. It's just also a predator. It was also trying to feed once. And just everything about this. So what did you think about it?
Maybe Colin Trevorrow was actually talking about Jared Leto's Joker in Suicide Squad and was like, no, he's barely in it. The first thing I want to draw attention to is this might be the most amount of characters on screen in any movie like this ever. By the end of the film, you've got the three classic legacy characters. You've got Claire, Owen, and the little girl. You've got the mercenary pilot who's shown up for this movie. Then you've got Ramsey, who is like Ian Malcolm's assistant at Biosyn. And just as they've accumulated him into their party, then Henry Wu shows up, and they're like, yeah, come along. Now, what's interesting about this is like this is from a franchise where like you build cannon fodder into the script so that you can raise the stakes and kill off these characters. And I was watching, I was like, those idiots, this is the problem they've made, right? So you cannot kill any of the legacy characters. You just can't do it. You just can't, right? You cannot kill Claire, Owen, or the little girl because that would be narratively antithetical. So the only characters you could theoretically use as cannon fodder are all the people of color in the cast, who are this mercenary pilot, Ramsey, and Henry Wu. Henry Wu, a character who deserves to die, who should have been the Dodgson in this, like, he should have been Dodgson. Like, they shouldn't have had Dodgson. It should have been Henry Wu has escaped and now he's doing all this shit.
Well,
like, he should be
one of
the
the
villain.
ideas they talked about is that, like, Jurassic World Dominion would explore what happens if the dinosaurs were like open source. And he said, it's insane to me. The most far-fetched idea would be that after 30 years, Wu was the only person who still knows how to make a dinosaur. Is still the only person who knows how to make a dinosaur. And it's like, yeah, Henry Wu, the greedy little fuck that he is, who has learned nothing from his other 3 appearances, should have risen to the top of Biosyn somehow and sold the rights to the dinosaurs and have all over the world.
When he showed up, I was like, God, finally a character they can kill off. But no, he actually survives and gets a relatively happy ending. But
which
it is
he doesn't deserve.
It's funny that like writing themselves into a corner, I don't mean to get political, but where the only characters that your script would make sense to kill off are all the ones that aren't white people. It's like, oh God, what went wrong here? And I guess what went wrong here is like, I can see Ian Malcolm being in this movie with like, that's valid. I think he has a place in this movie. I think Ali maybe has a place in this movie.
Because also the thing is that Ali is like the two guys have already helmed a sequel, and so it makes sense that Ali would be like, yeah, this is her turn to be the
But what is fucking Alan Grant contributes nothing to this film. What a waste of a character. Like, it's because they had too many fucking characters.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. And they're like, there's this one part where they all run up to watch the Giga fight the T-Rex, and it's like, why are there 9 people on screen watching this?
They make such a point of having all of them on screen at the same time so many times.
Yeah.
This is so that's what you think of the film. I would say this film really, really fucked me off. So I'd heard, Jurassic World Dominion's really bad. And
I
you
didn't
talked
go
about
see it for that reason.
Yeah, you talked about so you know, like that AV Club tweeted a thing about Jurassic Park 3 being like a lost masterpiece, and you said, "Oh, Jurassic World Dominion that bad, huh?" Yeah, it is. And this is one of the most offensively bad blockbusters like, this is, for me, this is up there with The Rise of Skywalker and The Crimes of Grindelwald, of like, especially that thing of you are being handed such a fucking home run, and you are fucking it up in a way that you almost have to have tried. And how did a team of writers come up with the idea that this big plot about locusts and think that's Jurassic World 3? Like, and I get exploring other stuff, but you also have these two completely. It feels like to me, because also this is the longest Jurassic Park movie, and there's allegedly a director's cut coming with an extra half hour of footage. It feels like they wrote the script not knowing if they were getting the legacy characters back, so they gave them a completely unrelated storyline that just ties together at the end.
Totally. It feels, especially with Sam Neill, it feels like they were like, they wrote the script and then they got the late email from Sam Neill being like, yeah, I'll do it. And they're like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
We haven't got to just pair him up with Ali.
Yeah. Oh God. He gets a funny little scene where he's confused by coffee orders, which starts to be one of the cleverest moments in the film, and then just is ruined. But when Ian Malcolm goes, "Oh, can I get you guys a coffee?" He orders a complicated coffee so that the frother will be on for a long time and he can talk to Ali without anyone hearing it. And then it just cuts to like Alan Grant being like, "Oh, coffee's too complicated these days." And the guy's like, "We got macchiatos, we got different kinds of milk." And it's like, just shut the fuck up. And then Ali says that Ian slid into her DMs, and like, just every single thing about this movie just like infuriated me. It's not even, I never even got the magic of like, wow, it's just so cool to see these three back together again, you know?
Right.
Like, I never even had that. And when they meet an hour and 40 minutes into the film, where they meet the new characters, it's so weird. It's such a weird scene. It's played to be this like super emotional thing, but it's just like, why is any of this happening?
I did think that scene was so they meet up and then the Giga attacks them and they have to get into like this facility. I gotta say, like, I thought they were gonna kill Ian Malcolm For a fleeting few moments, I was like, "Wow!"
It looks like he's about to sacrifice himself.
Is that the play they're going to make? Because you're expected they don't make a play is the answer. And then when he's climbing up the ladder, Ian like slips and falls, and Alan grabs his hand and pulls him up. And the cry that Jeff Goldblum emits when he falls was heartbreaking, because I was like, oh, and like, I don't know, that moment kind of got me, because it was like these two characters who've historically not gotten along having a little moment.
But one other thing I want to say about this movie, I spoke about like Fallen Kingdom being one of like a really well directed film. This is a horribly made film. The editing in this film is garbage. The continuity is awful. There's so many shots where characters just change who they're standing next to from one shot to another. It's infuriating. It's this is truly I cannot believe it's this bad. I had been told it was bad. It's so much worse than that.
I think that the really funny continuity error I noticed is that in one shot Chris Pratt is doing that fucking thing he does where he holds up his hand, because that's apparently kryptonite to a velociraptor. If you hold
and in this film, every dinosaur.
Yeah. And then it cuts to a wide shot and his hand is lower, and it's like, that's on Chris Pratt. What did you think your character was going to be doing in the background of this show? What are you doing? Why is your hand lower? You know exactly what he would be doing. It would be up like a traffic light. He'd be saying, "No, bad raptor. Look at my fingers."
Let's talk about the retcon that happens in this film, because
yeah. It's so funny. Oh my god. So the last film ends with as we said, the stupid superficial connection that the little girl's a clone and the dinosaurs are all clones. And then in this movie, she's not really a clone.
Well,
she's like it retcons it.
She's still absolutely a clone. But yeah, the idea is that because in the last film we're told this guy cloned his granddaughter because his daughter died and he wanted her to. And that's what the falling out with Hammond. In this film, it's shown that Charlotte, his daughter, cloned herself by her own volition, and that's Maisie. And it's like, oh wow, it wasn't my evil grandpa, it was actually her. And she realizes like, wow, I'm okay with being a clone because my quote unquote mum wanted me. And she had this like rare genetic disease that she then altered Maisie's DNA so that she wouldn't have that disease. And then Henry Wu's like, I need to get Maisie so that I can I need Charlotte's research so I can understand how to alter DNA so I can kill the locusts, which I fucking did. And then he stands in a field and releases the locust, which will save everything, and then sighs to himself and thinks, you know what, I'm a good person, and we're supposed to be like, wow, thank God Henry Wu got a good ending, which he doesn't deserve. But yeah, so it's like, so
God, I can't believe Dodgson's in this movie when Henry Wu is right there.
Yeah,
it's so obvious that that's what you do with that character. Yeah. So whether or not it makes her not a clone, it's still like, I saw her mum pregnant, and I was like, was she not born in a fucking petri dish? Is that not the whole point? Is that not like the whole like abomination of science? If she's still pregnant with her clone, is that not like, I don't know, maybe I'm too like narrow-minded,
science
but is
fiction,
that not, but is that not like no different from just a normal birth? Like, what does being a clone mean then? I don't know.
That is how clones work in real life. Yeah. I actually released a video about clones yesterday.
Well, you didn't tell me about it.
Well, I think I sent you the
released
TikTok.
it like giant locusts into you did send me a TikTok. I didn't watch it because
yeah, that's what it was. So like essentially it's copying the cells, and like do you know what, clones actually don't even necessarily look the same as well.
Oh, that's boring.
Yeah.
That's the whole fucking point.
I mean, technically, twins are clones of each other.
Wow.
So, but one thing I will say about, and I hate the way it's executed, but at some point in a 6-movie franchise, it makes sense that they explored human cloning. I think that had to be done. I think in the 30 years that cloning technology was this advanced to bring back dinosaurs, they needed to address that question at some point of, has someone tried to clone humans then? Or like, how has this research evolved? Unfortunately, it leads to one of the stupidest things a character's ever done in a film, and then one of the worst blockbusters of the last 10 years.
I mean, I didn't think it was that bad, but I think I'm still grappling with it. I think that, like, there were enough moments where I just sort of passively enjoyed it.
If we saw this at the movies together, you would have turned to me and said, that's probably better than the original Jurassic Park. And I would have been like, what? I hated that. And then on the drive home, you would have come to terms with the fact that you didn't really like it.
I've currently got it ranked above Fallen Kingdom, so maybe that needs to change. And Jurassic Park 3, actually.
This one look, it's so bad, AJ.
I just don't get it. I just don't. I think it was. I'm not saying it's good. I have all the same problems with it as you do. It just wasn't enough for me to be like, this is Rise of Skywalker bad.
It's also it's so long and it's so poorly paced as well.
I did not experience that.
I got to a point where I was like, surely this has to be over soon. I wasn't even an hour into it. They go to fucking Malta.
That happens to you all the time.
Yeah, because pacing issues are my de-aging. But there's this whole thing where they go to Malta and there's this random chick who just shows up very briefly, and then she tries to kill one of them, and they tase her, and she's like, that's not supposed to be used on humans, and it's like, you just try to fucking kill her. Like, all's fair in fucking love and war. But oh man, this
movie is also
I spent all day talking to people at work who have seen this movie, talking about how bad it is.
This also and like I talked about how the movie's afraid to kill off characters. It's also afraid to kill off dinosaurs. I think in comparison to seeing all the dinosaurs in Fallen Kingdom, or most of them, die on Isla Nublar, and then watching them loaded on to a big boat like it's bloody Jurassic Ark, Richard. I said it's like Jurassic Ark, Richard.
I actually
and then in this one, in Dominion, it's like they're scared to kill off anyone because the locusts get set on fire.
Well, no, so this is the thing as well.
The locusts get set on fire, they fly into the forest and start a forest fire, and instead of what would probably happen, which would be probably all the dinosaurs would die of smoke inhalation, they herd them all into all of them, huh? What? These, like, some that eat each other, they herd them because they've got, like, things in their brain which you can tell them what to do, which feels like, well, there's a solution to several problems. They herd them all into the sanctuary like it's a bloody Jurassic Ark, Richard. I said like it's a bloody Jurassic Ark. 2 by 2, they save one of each.
I do.
2 of each. One of each.
The thing about the locusts being set on fire, I am wondering if the discussion was had, and because I think people in the fallout from Fallen Kingdom would have been that people didn't like seeing the dinosaurs die, and I think that's why they introduced the locusts, because they're like, well, you can just kill a bunch of fucking big bugs. We can have a mass extinction event from something new that we're introducing.
Or something ugly too.
Yeah.
Or they go, what would be, here's the thought process, and it's a tragic one. It's one that leads to a movie as bad as this, right? They go, all right, what would the world look like if dinosaurs come and inhabit? Is what I was saying about the guy who let all the frogs out before. Like, there would be mass decimation to the ecosystem. And they go, okay, well, what's an example of what that would look like that maybe we can stir to be the kickoff point of the film? And someone goes, well, what if crops are being eaten? And they go, well, dinosaurs wouldn't really eat your crops, but bugs do. What if it's bugs? You know, and you're so lost in the source that you forget that it's supposed to be a movie about a dinosaur apocalypse. You're so concerned, Richard, with whether or not you could. You didn't think to stop to think if you should. I said like Jurassic Ark, Richard.
Yeah, this is... Fuck, man, this... Also...
Kill off Sam Neill. Do it, pussies. Just do something. God.
Fun fact about this film as well. In this film, Jeff Goldblum is the same age Richard Attenborough was in the original Jurassic Park.
Wow.
And Sam Neill is the same age that Richard Attenborough was in The Lost World.
Do you think that they recaptured their character? Do you think Jeff Goldblum does a
I don't.
better job as Ian Malcolm in this than he did in The Lost World?
Oh, I actually did think that, yeah. But nothing else like really felt like, man, they're back, you know? What a disappointing film. This is my most disappointing of the year.
Do you know what it is though? It's that the other two weren't very good, so I'm not. It's not like Rise of Skywalker, where I felt like I was watching like the idea of a blockbuster being redefined, and then got Rise of Skywalker. This is like I saw a cash grab, okay at best revival sequel. I saw a pretty bad sequel to that, and now I've seen a pretty bad sequel to that.
Yeah, well, maybe if I had only watched Jurassic World in the last 2 weeks, but I haven't, AJ. I've watched one of the greatest films of all time, and that film is called The Lost World Jurassic Park. Yeah, no, like that really in the last couple of weeks, I've really come to love and care about this franchise, and now I've come to hate it.
What was the moment you said where you thought the dinosaurs were going to talk?
Oh, at the end when they reunite Blue with her baby, and Owen and Blue stare at each other meaningfully and nod, and it seems like there's going to be like a thank you or like an Owen. Also, so much of this plot, so much of the danger is predicated on the fact that Chris Pratt made a promise to a dinosaur. He go, I can't, I have to do this. I made a promise to a dinosaur, which is incapable of understanding what a promise is.
Well, apparently it's not. Apparently there's velociraptors are the second most intelligent creatures on the planet.
After me.
Like well, anyway, I thought this film was pretty good. Oh, it was fun, big dinosaurs. It was fun. I don't know. Like, I'm sure I'll grow to hate it, and like something that you're very useful for actually is helping me hate a movie that I'm not sure on after I first watch it. And maybe I'm still thinking about it. I think I don't. What do you think is worse, this or Secrets of Dumbledore?
This.
Okay.
Absolutely this. At least Secrets of Dumbledore was able to do a little bit of course correcting in some places. This is just the worst movie I've ever seen. It's not. I haven't said that in a while, but it's this is on a level of like this is on a level of I don't understand how you made a movie this bad.
Right.
Where it's similar to Rise of Skywalker or Crimes of Grindelwald, where it's like Secrets of Dumbledore is like I know how films can be this level, where it's like, right. Oh yeah, just a messy, a bit of a convoluted plot kind of thing. This is like someone should have stopped you at some point, and this
should be arrested.
Surely this is the final nail in the Trevorrow coffin. That it's like, but then it's still made almost $1 billion. But it's like this is such an incomprehensibly written and directed film.
I think that the money it makes is not because of Trevorrow though. It's because it's something people recognize, and I wonder when that. Yeah,
but still, absolutely. If you're a Hollywood accountant, you go, oh yeah, that guy makes money.
Yeah, I wonder when the well is going to run dry of like, you know, how many bad Jurassic Park movies I mean, we've kind of seen it with Fantastic Beasts, right?
Yeah.
Like, how many bad Jurassic Park movies do we need till they stop? It starts reflecting that fall from grace financially.
Yeah. So that's the Jurassic World trilogy. We talk about titles a lot on this podcast.
You're so sad. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that Jurassic World Dominion disappointed you so.
Yeah, I actually have some quick dumb IMDb trivia. Here's one. Chris Pratt, Sam Neill, and Jeff Goldblum all have roles in both this and Thor: Love and Thunder. Fun fact. No, they don't. Jeff Goldblum's not in Thor: Love and Thunder. After playing a major role in the previous two films, Blue doesn't take an active role in the plot.
What? That's a very subjective way to discuss the characters. They could say the same thing about Alan Grant.
First Jurassic World movie in which the film was not released 3 years apart from its predecessor. Fallen
I see you,
Kingdom's
Pete.
also the only Jurassic World movie which wasn't released 4 years after its predecessor. And also, Jurassic World came out 14 years after its predecessor. Stupid. Don't mind to be trivia. We talk about Tarzan on this podcast. The thing I teased at the start, Jurassic World Dominion doesn't have a colon. It's Jurassic World Dominion.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Doesn't have a colon. That's so ugly.
Isn't that bizarre?
Ew. All right, thoughts on titles?
I love Jurassic World as a title. I think that is, again, like talking about this is one of the most clever continued franchises we've ever seen on an actual franchise. Jurassic World, what a perfect title for that.
I can imagine us pitching this if it hadn't been made and being like, and it's called Jurassic World.
Because, yeah, it's like, it's another something for a theme park, world. Fallen Kingdom.
I think it's interesting that all the titles are other words for, like, not necessarily a world, but like, could you have called them Jurassic World, Jurassic Kingdom, Jurassic Dominion? You know, like they're all. It's not like it's Jurassic World Extinction. It's like another thing, another place, another location, or
Jurassic World Extinction would be fun.
An idea of a location. I think the problem with using Extinction in a Jurassic Park movie title is that it's like in the humans' favor for Extinction.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think like if you're gonna go the bizarre colon-free third film, Jurassic World Extinction, I mean, it's the same kind of thing that I was talking about with Dominion. Is that it's like, it's so easy not to fuck up this film. You even fucked up the title. It's how hard was it to not fuck up that title?
That's so interesting. I feel like a colon is such like it's such a small thing that you just take it for granted. Like I would just naturally assume I would have gone my whole life thinking it did have a colon. Yeah.
There's a massive
It's probably when they saved the MP4, they couldn't use a colon because it's a invalid symbol on Windows.
Another similar title that we may cover one day is that on the talk page for Wikipedia, you know, when you make an edit and you can there's a talk page made about whether or not to make changes. More than 40,000 words were written on whether or not to capitalize the I in Star Trek Into Darkness. Because that also doesn't have a colon.
Neither does Star Trek Beyond. And I quite like that. It makes it sound like they're parts of a sentence.
But the idea being that the Wikipedia's Mandel style stipulates that prepositions fewer than 5 letters are not to be capitalized. Like, you wouldn't capitalize just in. And so, because it's a sentence, even though it's a title, you don't capitalize the I. But then it's like, if it's like a subtitle, it's the first word of the subtitle, so you would capitalize it.
This is great.
And
this is my type of shit.
and so it's like, thousands and thousands of words written. The consensus was reached that it was left capitalized.
Yeah, that feels right.
But because also like the title treatment on the poster is all caps, so you can't tell if it's meant to be what. I mean, I've said before that I think the second Jurassic World film should be called The Lost Park Jurassic World.
But it's not even relevant to the plot.
No, they lose the park. It's covered in fucking lava.
Okay, fine.
Couldn't be more relevant to the plot.
You've convinced me.
I also think, Jurassic World War was the one that everyone talked about for the title, and it feels like that's what the last one should have been called. And then, if you don't want a colon, it's like they committed to they put up on the board Jurassic World War, and then they put up a post-it note that said no colon. At some point, Jurassic World War was taken down, but they left no colon up there for some reason.
If it was called Jurassic World War, I would be livid that the second one wasn't called Jurassic World something.
Yeah. Jurassic
End?
Worlds Apart.
Wow. World Fair?
Well, with nothing else to say about titles, let's move on to the Cult Elders segment. So this is where, there's a Cult Elders tier on our Patreon, which you can join. And if you do, you get access to a secret Discord channel, or apparently you could text me your thoughts, as happened last week. For those annoyed at home that Tyler is not a cult elder and got his thoughts read out last week, he has since joined the tier because he felt bad. So, but he hasn't sent any thoughts for this week. So, here we go. Cult Elders. Dimitri says the first Jurassic World movie might be the best Mercedes commercial of all time, but it's still overlong with characters I never really care about. The second one I don't remember much about other than hating it, and the newest one had a couple interesting ideas that didn't have the greatest execution because they were too busy winking and nodding to the original films. I'll rewatch the Park movies from time to time, but the World trilogy isn't worth it to me. Interesting. There's a lot of like winks and nods. Ellie, when she first sees the locusts, does the glasses thing that Sam Neill does in the first film.
There was one where there's someone says something to Alan Grant and they're like, "Do you know about XYZ?" And he's like, "Yes," and it was like some kind of reference to.
Do you know about Jurassic Park?
No, it was like, I don't want to say it was like, "Do you know about Velociraptors?" But it was something like that.
Not Vincent D'Onofrio, who may or may not be Vincent D'Onofrio, said, "I just want to contribute how at one point it was laughable to think Chris Pratt would be the star of a franchise like Jurassic Park. Years before his casting and a behind-the-scenes feature for Parks and Rec, Pratt himself jokingly talks about big things coming his way, like Spielberg texting him for Jurassic Park 4, which is a very funny clip I've seen a few times. That he's doing like just a little diary cam, and he says, and he's like reading out a text message that he gets. It's like Spielberg Jurassic Park 4, and it's like the joke that it's this weirdly, I think it was 2010, and it's this weird thing that not only like making the joke that Jurassic Park 4 ended up happening, but the fact that he starred in it. And Dan at home added, "Yes, OMG, thank you for sharing this."
The same thing happened with Simon Pegg in Mission Impossible, I think.
Yeah, he said after he sort of blew up, he said, "Oh, it's not like I'm going to go do Mission Impossible 3 or whatever," and then he was in Mission Impossible 3. Although that almost felt like he had been cast and he was making a joke about it, like a little sneaky little British joke. Didn't get much for the Elders this week, but
is that meeting adjourned?
That is meeting adjourned.
Wow.
So, continue the franchise. So there is Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous on Netflix, which is similar kind of vein to the Fast and Furious Spy Racers. It just released
exactly the same. It looks like the same animation style.
It actually just released its final season just under 2 hours ago, and it finished its final season while we've been recording. But one thing that is explained in the series that is not explained elsewhere is they apparently explain how Dodgson has the Barbasol can in Dominion. So that's in Cretaceous.
We didn't mention this, but apparently Dodgson actually dies similar to Nedry's death. Very cool.
Yeah.
The frill-neck dinosaurs show up.
Yeah, the Dilophosaurus.
Spray him with piss.
Spit. So there's Jurassic World Evolution 1 and 2, like Park Builder games.
We talked about it last week,
a live-action television series based on the Jurassic World films was reportedly in development as of March 2020. However, one of the producers said this year that such a series had not been discussed and that his focus was on the films. Speaking about Camp Cretaceous, he said, "I think that's plenty for now."
What a boringly realistic response from a studio exec. When have they ever said that? When have they ever been like, "I think we've got enough"?
One thing that I missed last week that is a very sort of AJ thing. This is a cancelled project. A show called Escape from Jurassic Park. So in June 1993, they confirmed that there was an animated series based on the film, was just awaiting Spielberg's final approval. It was going to be called Escape from Jurassic Park. Would have had 23 episodes for the first season. It would have centered on Hammond's attempts to finish Jurassic Park and open it to the public, while InGen's corporate rival Biosyn is simultaneously planning to open their own dinosaur theme park in Brazil, which ultimately ends with their dinosaurs escaping to the jungles. If produced, it was believed the project would be the most expensive animated series ever made. at the
That
time.
sounds so interesting.
Yeah,
I've never heard
but
of that.
it's that was
Spielberg said no?
happening. Trying to find if it actually has like a reason.
Spielberg was like, "No, this isn't allowed. Instead, we're going to go do these other movies instead." There's a standard you've got to reach.
So they made a trailer to demonstrate what the series would look like. The series required Spielberg's final approval before it could go into production. However, Spielberg had grown tired of the massive promotion and merchandise revolving around the film and never watched the trailer.
That's so fucking frustrating. Imagine being like team leader on Escape from Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
And you can't get Steven Spielberg to watch your trailer. God,
Yeah.
fuck off, Steven Spielberg.
And then there was also a Jurassic Park Chaos Effect, which was also cancelled. It was another animated series. But they released the toy line for it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so there's also two things related to Jurassic World Dominion. There's the Jurassic World Dominion Prologue, which is a short film called Jurassic World Dominion Prologue. And it was originally...
Presumably no colons in there either.
Not at all. Nary a colon to be seen. It's...
What is this, Nedry, after he's been eaten?
So this was originally the first 5 minutes of the film. It has a flashback to the Jurassic era, and then it goes 65 million years later, and then it shows the team capturing the T-Rex at a drive-in movie theater, which is referenced in the film but not shown.
That wasn't in the film.
Yeah. Yeah, so it was
Wasn't
cut
that
out.
like a massive part of the... Why the hell did they cut that out?
It's also the best part of the film, if it had been in it. And, it was shown before... What do you call F9 in IMAX in 2021. Wow. So there was also a short film release called Battle at Big Rock.
Yes.
Yeah, which I don't think I ever watched. But
it's about like a family camping and the T-Rex shows up.
What is your Continue the Franchise for this week?
Well, it's actually very related to those last two you mentioned because I purposefully already talked about Jurassic Waters so that I didn't have to mention it again here. I think that judging by Battle at Big Rock and Prologue, both of which are directed by Colin Trevorrow and were pretty well received, as well as the opening scene of Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom being like unanimously agreed upon as the only good scene in the movie, I think the way forward here is actually to make like Jurassic Park stories, Jurassic World events.
Jurassic World building.
Jurassic World building. I think a series of short films, similar like talking like the Marvel one-shots kind of thing, could be a way to go. We did the Animatrix recently on Film Franchise Follow-Ups, and we ended it talking about what franchise would you like to do an Animatrix for? And, you know, like what franchise would you like to pitch a bunch of vignettes for? And I think I landed on Pirates of the Caribbean as what I'd want to do. But I think Jurassic Park is more what I'd want to do because you can do things like Battle at Big Rock. You can do things like the Prologue. You can do stories that are set in any part of the timeline, be that the dinosaurs have escaped at the end of Fallen Kingdom, like Battle at Big Rock, or it's just actually set in dinosaur times, like Prologue, or it's you know, mercenaries going to Isla Nublar as is their wont. You know, like just tell compelling short stories, make a package of them, you know, 5 minutes in length, and release that on what is Jurassic Park on Paramount Plus? What's their Paramount?
Universal,
yeah, and like it's a reason to sign up as you get this package of short films. You know, bring in cool directors to do them, have them be short, have them communicate a simple idea, and you give them a budget to put dinosaurs on it. Like, there are endless ideas that you could come up with in any part of the Jurassic Park timeline, you know?
Yeah, it's... Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I like that.
Yeah. Thank you.
My Continue the Franchise is called Jurassic Land.
Oh.
And they've inexplicably rounded up all the dinosaurs and they've got the park running again.
Is that the whole thing? It's just another the park is running story.
Yeah, they you got it.
How do they round them up? Do they put them on a Jurassic Ark, Richard?
Yeah, no, I also think that like because we are going to get a sequel to these films at some point, surely. They've said like, oh, we say it's the end of the Jurassic era, but you never be so sure. I think we're going to get like a Cretaceous Park or something like that. But my genuine want for this franchise would be a very close adaptation of the novel that's a TV series. I wanted to honor. Last week I said I'm going to get my Jurassic World pitch out of the way, which was the prequel to Jurassic World, because I wanted to honor wherever Dominion leaves the series. Now I don't. I want to restart. I want to start again, and don't let. I hate that Colin Trevorrow is as synonymous with this franchise as Spielberg.
It is like. That is an interesting idea, because with something like Westworld, another Crichton project, like we are in an era where budgetary-wise and technology-wise, a Jurassic Park TV show is possible. It's just whether or not they're willing to reboot their brand or not, I guess.
It's interesting because everyone talks about, and we talked about this, that Harry Potter, everyone talks about that as if it's a given that it'll be adapted again. But we don't talk about like mini franchises like that. Yeah. So anyway, that's where my head's at. It's time to rank that franchise, though.
Oh boy, we got a suggestion on the Discord this week that ranked that franchise and French-wise, where we discuss why something became a franchise. Which we have forgotten to do again. Which we forgot to. Well, I knew we forgot to do it. I assumed I was saving it for this. It was suggested to us by, I think, Luke, that we should probably check that. That we combine them as a way to make ranked that franchise more interesting, to discuss why it would be a franchise. So, I mean, why? I guess, like, with Jurassic Park, I wonder if, like, it'd be very easy to be like, it made a lot of money, which is easy for a lot of these ones.
Well, you also have the loose end of the Barbasol can from Jurassic Park. That's
true. Yeah, right. But I wonder in this case if it's less, it's obviously about money, but I wonder if it's also about let's play with these toys some more. Maybe that's what inspired a Jurassic Park sequel.
Well, and also like, but specifically with Jurassic World, it's like Jurassic World could have easily flopped, and I think we would have just had another unsuccessful reboot to a franchise. But this one, like, the reason it spawned a trilogy is so much because it just completely. Because it's almost the requel thing of like just do the same film again, but the stakes are higher because there's more people.
You could just reboot or do another sequel trilogy that ignores Jurassic World.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be mad.
Do a prequel trilogy that's just actual dinosaurs.
They go back in time.
All right, so whereabouts is Jurassic World going in our ranking?
Well, where's Jurassic Park?
This
is over on letterboxd.com/cultpopshow, by the way, where we rank every franchise we've ever watched. I feel iffy about ranking Park and World separately, but I don't want to cause a fuss.
I'm ranking them separately. So Jurassic Park is at 31. Jurassic World should be much lower.
Okay, throw out some options to me.
Is it better or worse than the Santa Claus?
That's very hard to answer.
What about, is it better or worse than Fantastic Beasts?
It is. That's very hard to answer. I reckon for three, I think that Jurassic World has a better single movie than
Fantastic Beasts.
Yeah.
Is it better or worse than The Mummy 1999?
It is worse than that, I think.
Okay, cool. Then it goes between The Mummy and Fantastic Beasts.
That feels right.
Just shy of the Nymphomaniac constant, which is at 72. Jurassic World is at 76.
Nice. The Nymphomaniac, we should keep telling people that don't know this. The Nymphomaniac constant is our demarcation, our line in the sand, which represents a franchise that is both equal parts good and bad, and therefore a perfect zero. So if a franchise is more good than bad, it goes above
such as, let's say, The Mighty Ducks.
Yeah. Or if it's more bad than good, it goes below the Nymphomaniac.
Let's say GoldenEye.
It's not a franchise. It's the Pierce Brosnan Bond movie.
Oh, yeah. So, now, we've reached the end of the Jurassic era.
Wow, that was quick.
How do you feel?
I feel dinosauric, Richard.
Nice. Very cool. So the only real thing that's left to do is to reveal our next franchise.
We're bobbing our heads back and forth.
City.
A visual element that's just for the two of us.
Yeah, the Bobble Boys. So,
I hope we roll the Bobble Boys.
it's worth mentioning, I think, that things are going to get a little bit weird on the podcast soon because I am setting sail for your shores, listener, potentially. I know at least one or two of our listeners that I'll be
America?
America,
Dozens of our listeners are from America. What do you mean one or two?
Why, I said potentially some, but there's one or two I know specifically I'll be hitting their shores.
Ah, okay.
Because I'm going to be meeting up with them. If you live anywhere on the west coast of America, let me know. We can catch up. So I'm going to be there mid-August to early September. So yeah, we're sort of having to do, similar to when AJ went to the UK a couple months ago, we're having to sort of squeeze the podcast into a smaller time frame. So I'm quite happy to admit that we're going to be rolling from a shorter franchise list, which is easier to manage because we're going to end up recording more multiple episodes within the same fortnight kind of thing. So yeah, what do you want to do plugs?
Sure thing. So if you enjoyed this episode, guys, please be sure to check us out on all the various internet covens in which things like this are represented, such as Instagram or Twitter, where you can follow us at Culpopture. I would highly, highly, highly recommend joining our Discord, which there is a link to in the show notes. You join the Discord, you can talk about anything with us. Anything with us. We do have a discussion every week based on the franchise that we just watched, the most recent podcast. People are allowed to talk about what they thought of our thoughts, which we would love for you to do. Anyway, let us know what you thought of our thoughts. And you can also, if you would like to throw in some money, if you'd like to donate, you can head along over to patreon.com/culpopture for some wonderful rewards, including telling us which films we can watch by suggesting and voting on every second franchise we do, and a post-credit scene, which you'll hear in a moment's time. But Richard, before we get to the post-credit scene, let's end the episode. What is the random number?
Sorry,
5.
5?
Yeah, that is... Oh, yeah.
I've forgotten what this feels like.
It's a trilogy.
Oh. Is it Jurassic Park?
Yes. It's Fantastic Beasts. No, so it's a trilogy. The most recent one came out 2 years ago.
Okay.
I think it's going to inspire a fun discussion about titles.
Okay.
Any guesses?
I have no idea.
Give
me a genre. Give me some
action.
More chunk. Action. Is it action we've done is it John Wick?
No, it's not quite the Bobble Boys. It's very similar.
Bad Boys.
It is Bad Boys.
Wow, that is so close to the Bobble Boys. All right, well, the couple of bad boys here are going to do a trouble of bad boys next fortnight. So stay tuned for the Bad Boys trilogy on the next episode of Film Franchise Fortnights. We'll do something different next week. I don't think we've decided what that is just yet.
Nope.
But hey, thank you for listening, everybody, and stay tuned for the post-credit scene after this music finishes.
And I hope you enjoyed your Redux. AJ, you're scaring me.
Welcome along to the post-credit scene, everybody. This is a segment at the end of each episode where if you donate $5 or more over at patreon.com/culpopture, you get to give us something to talk about in the post-credit scene. Richard, can you please lay it on me? Who's it from and what is it?
Today's Patreon post-credit scene comes to us from one, I thought I would be able to scroll down by the time I finished that sentence, Vincent Lara. who says, "Hey, you handsome men, what is your ideal day like? Activities, meals eaten, relaxation tactics. Get up in the morning and fuck."
Oh, very cool.
Sleep in.
Very sexy.
Activities, an escape room. I would.
What, in your own bedroom?
Yeah.
Have you left your bedroom yet?
No.
That sounds horrible.
Yeah, no, what about you?
I wake up and my bedroom is warm, but it is pissing down outside, and I get to lie in bed and listen to the rain on my roof. It's very loud in the loft, and that's the best thing about living in the loft. And I sleep in.
It's not a school day, so there's no kids
it's not
next
a
door?
school day. Yep. Well, it'd be raining. They wouldn't be outside. I live next to a kindergarten, for context. I get up when I'm good and ready. I have some fun with my friends. Maybe we watch a movie together or play a game together, or we make some food together. Maybe go somewhere together.
Yeah, I'm very much I like to do stuff.
Yeah. I do, but I feel like the people I live with don't, so I acclimatized.
Yeah. What about eating? Any foods that make me feel good at the time usually make me feel bad, but worse like later on.
Yeah, that's true.
Like as I'm getting older, the window of how good I feel when I eat bad food is getting smaller and smaller.
Yeah. I don't know about food. I know there'll definitely be like Coke around. I can tell you that much.
Yeah.
Maybe like some nice deli sandwiches, some nice Italian,
some kind of nice bread.
Yeah, and some nice bread and some nice cheese. Yeah,
I love or like a good wine and cheese.
Yeah.
What else? Fuck, I smashed my head on a van today, and I just scratched my head and it really hurts.
Oh my god!
So I wouldn't do that on my ideal day.